a single car team.
Brad Keselowski won this race.
500. Delano, there are the Wood brothers. Oh my goodness. First win in 10 years.
Side by side. Come on, Norm. Hangs on.
Norm was not going to be denied.
And we did it. Yeah!
Hey, how y'all doing? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the latest episode of the Also Ran broadcast. I am your host, Derek Nelson, and before we get any further into this, I got to do my shtick. I got to make sure that y'all are helping us to tame the savage algorithm beast. So what I need you to do is I need you to like and subscribe to our channel. Give us some comments. Let us know what we could do better or what we're doing good on, and then we can even improve on that. If you're over on the audio realm, make sure you rate and review. That having been said, let's get into today's show.
Hey, I'm stealing y'all away from other Derek for a second so I can tell y'all about our brilliant sponsor, Gray Before Shave. Gray Before Shave offers everything you could possibly need for your hair up there. They've got oils, balms, butters. They've got waxes for your mustache, shampoo, conditioner. There's so much stuff. I don't have the time to sit here and tell you about everything. Head over to their website, graybeforeshave.com. See something you like, take it to the checkout. Before you check out, apply the code ALSO-RAN for 15% off your purchase. If you're undecided on which scent is right for you, they have an excellent bundle of oils that has one of each of their brilliant scents. I prefer the Pumpkin Smash. My wife absolutely loves their brand new Liquid Gold. It smells like adult bubble gum. That's the only way I can think to describe it. So head over there, graybeforeshave.com. Find something you like, check it out, use our discount code ALSO-RAN for 15% off. You won't be disappointed. Now, back to that other handsome bearded fella.
We got a special guest today. She did a little bit of racing back in the day in the ARCA series, 2008, 2009. Her story is quintessential Also Ran story. You know, she's had some time off in the meantime. Alli Owens is going to join us later on. And it was kind of a long interview, but man, it was fun. You know, it's great to have a conversation with somebody, because this is what this is. This isn't an interview. Technically, it's an interview, but it's a conversation, right? We want to get people on here, talk to them, see who they are, where they came from, what they're doing. Producer Josh, say hello to the people.
What is going on?
How do you feel about that interview that we just had? I mean, are you more excited now that we've got it behind us?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I knew it was going to be. It was going to be a knockout. You know, that her story. When you told me about her, I think she was somebody that we talked about bringing on before we even started the show. You know, and that was. You had kind of brought me into the attention of, you know, her social media and reading her struggles of, you know, being not the Danica Patrick of the NASCAR, but somebody that's just a hardworking blue collar, you know, gal that's just trying to make it, and reading and seeing her struggles. And I knew it was going to be a killer conversation, not to mention, you know, a little surprise that you put in there too. So.
Yeah, y'all got to stay tuned. We're not going to give it away. I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if you knew what it was. But yeah, we got a little extra special surprise for y'all. And man, women in racing. I don't know what it is. I guess just because I'm a sucker for the storylines. And NASCAR is going to give you a storyline. NASCAR, the sanctioning body, not the actual sport itself. They're going to give you the story they want to feed you. It's going to benefit them, and then they're going to forget about the story. They're going to forget about the content, which is kind of why Josh referred to Alli as kind of like the anti-Danica. Not that there was anything wrong with Danica. Danica is going to catch flack, but, you know, NASCAR just wasn't her forte. You know, she grew up and she was focused on open wheels, and then stock cars presented themselves to her, and she did what she could with it. And, you know, there's a lot of narrow-minded fans out there. They're gonna see things and say that, you know, it was what it was. But I'd be remiss, and I notice I do that a lot on the show. So if it's a bad habit, I apologize. I need to go through a brief history of females in in NASCAR, starting with the very first actual NASCAR race. You had Sarah Christian, who during the shoe show, I did a little snippet on the 71 because the 71 was coming back in the sport. Aspire. Sarah Christian drove the 71 car in NASCAR's first sanctioned stock car race, which is now where one of the airports resides in North Carolina. But so you had Sarah Christian over the years, Ethel Mobley. Sarah Christian was the one that most people, her name is probably most prominent with everybody, and it has nothing to do with the Sister Christian song. Totally different. Say that right now. People hear Sarah Christian, and because of her last name, they automatically go to the song. The song was about the lead singer's sister. Okay, so that's done. That's out the way. Fast forward a few years to 1976 when Janet Guthrie came into the sport. And she was the first woman to start a super speedway race in NASCAR. Obviously, she also ran some IndyCar stuff, did really well, had some great sponsors. Then you go from late 70s into the 80s. You got Patty Moyes, who would become the first woman to lead a Busch Series race, right? So we've had some names in the sport over the years to where now you look in the garage area. And how can I not talk about Jen Jo Cobb? I've been watching the sport since early 2000s, and Jen Jo is the most common name when it comes to female racers that you would see. And Jen Jo herself has done a lot to make sure that she surrounds herself with other women, either fueling her car or doing pit crew stuff, trying to help the diversity of the sport. Now you look in the garage area and you've got several different women getting ready to start the ARCA race. You got Tony Breidinger, you got Amber Bachland, Isabella Robusto. I hope I'm saying her name right. If I'm not, it's because guess what? I don't do this for a living, people. So cut me some slack. But yeah, so Alli's story, I knew I wanted to tell it because when she originally raced and was prominent in the sport in 2008 and 2009 in the ARCA series, I watched her, and she had a good sponsor. She had a nice looking race car, and just hearing her story today and seeing her telling us about her struggles over the years. I mean, the interview went a lot deeper than I thought it would, which is great because that's kind of what we do here. We want people to know the full story, and the more somebody's willing to tell us, we will take the time and we will tell your story and we will get it out there. She's super, super excited for Daytona. And yeah, sometimes I know a lot more about the sport, the intricacies of, behind the curtains than producer Josh when it comes to some of these stories. So all these guests that you're seeing on the show are people that I have to tell Josh who these people are, where they came from, and I have to get him psyched up for it. The special surprise that takes place took a lot of coercing. It's like, I just don't get it. I don't see where you're coming from. And, hopefully y'all enjoy it as much as we do afterwards. But, yep. I think that's all I got for y'all. I can't really, hype up the interview more than I'm doing now. It was a great interview. Y'all stick around for the whole thing. You won't be disappointed. And just make sure, because Josh, we're putting this out before the ARCA race, correct?
Yeah.
But y'all tune in. It's going to be on Valentine's Day. At noon Eastern. If you live where I live, that's going to be 11 o'clock Central. General Tire 200. It's going to be a damn good race. Yeah. I believe we may know somebody that's going to be behind the scenes doing some media work for Class Motorsports, possibly.
Yeah, you may. Yeah, you'll have to look for my face if they show Andy Jankowiak's or Glenn Reen on the pit in pit stall there. If they show them during the halftime break or something, look around for my face. I'll have a hat on, but you can't look for the hair, but look for the face. I'll be out there shooting media. So we also had Andy Seiss is going to be dropping Daytona week as well. So get everybody excited for the ARCA series, because the ARCA series really is a lot of fun, and I think more people need to pay attention. If
they're not tuning in, Dale Jr. hopefully did the series a lot of good by talking about them more. Guys, gals, look, NASCAR was a totally different sport back in the day. NASCAR, you had sometimes the drivers would drive their. Let me touch on Wendell Scott for a second. Wendell Scott drove his own car to the track. worked on his own car. Like, when people hear that Wendell Scott won a race, they kind of brush him off to the side. And it was kind of like worst case scenario as far as driver or hauler getting to the track situation. Obviously, he had obstacles he had to overcome, but yeah, there were times where he'd go to the race and change his own tires. Well, excuse me. In the ARCA garage right now, they have guys and gals. They may cut yards for a living, and when the weekend comes around, they take the lawnmowers and the weed eaters and all their equipment they rely on to make a living, take that off the trailer, and then they put a toolbox and a race car on the trailer, and they show up to the track. And that is not an exaggeration, y'all. Like, it blew me away a couple years ago when I got to see behind the scenes of the ARCA garage, and you had the top tier teams such as Venturini and JGR, and even Class Motorsports. They're competing with these. They have a huge hauler. They show up with multiple cars. They've got multiple people working on the teams. And then you got people that just show up. It's them and a couple buddies looking to put their car on track and just have a good time. And if
pulling the car into the flatbed.
Right. I mean, y'all are missing out if you're not watching and that's one of the problems with this show is we are going to introduce y'all to some ARCA personalities, and you may actually have trouble deciding who you're going to pull for. So we are happy to present you with that issue.
The ARCA garage is so full of, it's just such a strange bag of characters from, you got people like Andy J, who he races anything he can race. He's always racing, and then when he's not racing, he keeps himself busy by delivering pizzas in Buffalo, New York, because that's what he's loved to do for decades. You got, and he's older. You got Greg Van Alst. Actually, Greg is not in ARC anymore, but he has a similar story. He owns a fencing company. What was it in Indiana? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's somewhere up north.
But he owns a company who then was making enough money to fund his own ARCA team, who is now in the truck series, and such a good guy, and I can't wait to have him on the show again. We had him on previously on the Shoe Show. Then you got people like Garrett Mitchell, who everybody knows from his YouTube channel, who has no racing experience. He knows how to build cars, and he knows how to do social media really well, but he's completely out of left field. You got some of these, some people that are kind of like, models in a way. It's such a big, interesting mix. And to top it all off, the most interesting thing to me, and I didn't realize it until you went and did the documentary for the Shoe Show, Derek, is that, how hard everybody works. From Class Motorsports and a lot of these other teams, they just have volunteer employees that come out and they work on the car for free, their family, their friends. And it's all like old school cars. Like, at least that's what, what Andy's driving. It's, 20-year-old chassis from, 2005, who knows whoever drove it before him. But then you got people like, not to shame anybody, but good for success and all, but like, Butterbean Queen, who is essentially, that team is essentially being funded by Trackhouse, and then you got a Joe Gibbs team and everything else. So it feels a little more old school NASCAR. It's not, 1980s NASCAR, but it's a little more of whoever has the most money. It's not like the Cup that we have now where all cars are equal. The cars are not equal. So when you see Andy J, or when you see our guest today riding up in the top 5 at Daytona with PRG team, or with Joe Gibbs or whoever else, know that there is truly a big difference in how much money is in the engines and the chassis and everything. So even the research, these teams, most teams don't have the research that say I believe it's PRG is the team's name that Butterbean was racing with, but they have all the data that Trackhouse has. Class does not. So it's it's a big difference, and it really feels more like you're really pulling for the little guy to win. Even more so now than when you watch Cup, because Cup is almost every car is almost the same. Now it's about how many people you got and how many specialists you got on the team. So, but
the best way I can think, in the best way I can think to describe the ARCA garage, for any of you Star Wars fans out there, imagine Mos Eisley Cantina right? You've got a cornucopia, a blend of all sorts of different people from all sorts of different areas of the country, East Coast, West Coast, up north, down south. And they all have one goal, and that's to go out there. Well, let me rephrase that. They don't all have some teams. They go out there and they know, that they can run for the win. But there's also the also-rans, and they want to win too. And they're going to do everything they can to get up there and fight for the win. But at the end of the day, it's people doing what most of us wish we could do. They get out there and they work their butts off to put a car on track and just go out there and have a good time, turn laps. And the practice that we just had, or that they just had in Daytona, is a perfect example. There was like 90 names on the sheet. Guys like Mitch Stapleton that go there with Big Willie Mullins says, hey, here's a seat. You want to turn laps. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to start a race, but that's how much it means to get out there and turn laps at Daytona. It's as far as racing goes, it's sacred territory. Not everybody gets an opportunity to do that.
We should probably start, getting to our guest who's winning the wings. But, who am I to even? I feel bad even forgetting. But I was telling examples of Andy J or Greg Van Alst, but Alli Owens, who you're going to hear her story here in a minute. Perfect example. I think she told us off camera that she works full time in business, I believe it was, and she's a single mom, has custody of her kids, and like that's the reason why I love ARCA. Is like these are adults, these are people that I can follow, that I can relate to, that you and I are just alike, and meanwhile they also get to do a really cool job that we can feel a little bit better cheering them on versus a Carson Hocevar or a Ty Gibbs or some of these kids that are 20 years old, have no life experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
got the youngins trying to make a name for themselves, and you got the older, more mature drivers saying, hey, we are still here, and you're gonna have to earn it. So
that's right.
Yeah. It is a phenomenal show. It's going to be a phenomenal show, and this is going to be a phenomenal show. I say we go ahead and we turn it over to Alli. Sound like a good idea? Yeah, let's go.
Man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alli Owens.
The IBW NECA team is always trying to find new and inventive ways to spread the good word about careers in the electrical industry to America's youth. And one way is through one of America's most popular sports, and one girl who's running down a dream. Her name is Alli Owens. The fact that she graduated in 3 years with honors from high school makes her a bit unusual. Now living alone on her own, more than 7 hours from family and friends, demonstrates that she's mature beyond her years. But there's one more thing about this 18-year-old that places her in some very unique and prestigious company. Alli Owens races cars for a living.
Going green now, be on your toes. All around, let's get after it. Go green, go green, go green.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how y'all doing? Welcome to the Also Ran broadcast. We have a special guest with us today. All our guests are special, but we'll just go ahead and say Alli is extra special. The young lady, the young girl that is now a young lady. Alli, how the heck are you doing?
Can we just talk about the nostalgia of that TV in my living room? DVD player. I just saw Jesse Love do an interview and didn't even know what a VHS was called. So that was an awesome throwback to start this show. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was hoping we would get a little bit of a reaction out of you from that. So for those of you watching us right now that have no idea who Alli Owens is, Alli did some racing back in the day and took some time off for some family time and has tried to get back a couple times and is currently coming back to the General Tire 200, which takes place Saturday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, at noon Eastern. So now that I got that all out the way, Alli, is there how would you go about introducing yourself to the fans that have no idea who Alli Owens is?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny that you say that because I'm like running into it. Somebody mentioned that I was like an up and coming driver. I was like, oh no, we've done that. We've rode that train. I think most people, I think I have heard of the NASCAR diversity program. So I was one of the first drivers to be a part of that. So it was really showing my age. I'm 37. I started racing professionally in the ARCA series at 17, like got my feet wet into that part of it. So it's been a while. The comeback, everybody keeps asking, like, what is that really about? And it's not so much a comeback of like, let me try to just jumpstart my career over again. It's more of closing the gaps on why we really haven't progressed from where I left off almost 20 years ago to where we are now with females in motorsports. And there really hasn't been much progression in 20 years. And I just want to kind of open the door to conversation on like what I went through and what I think we could do to change it and try to be a pioneer for girls that don't feel like they have a resource to trust and be an outlet to kind of help that movement go forward, whether that be helping them with sponsorship conversations or all the things I did wrong or what I would have changed. So that's more so of why I was like, all right, it's time to get back in the seat and show that I could do my own in 60 days, which let me tell you, being a mom of 3 and trying to do that, I am very much the definition of insanity.
Yeah. No, excuse me. No doubt. I mean, I was talking to a buddy, Josh, producer Josh, when I first saw your story, and I was like, we have to get Alli on. Like, you don't understand. There's history here, and we touched on this briefly as we were kind of warming up for our conversation. Back in 2008, NASCAR 09 came out. And it gave you the option to create different paint schemes and do some online racing. It's nothing near what it is today. And through that game, being able to make some paint schemes for some young ladies that were racing on consoles back then. And also having friends that were associated with your sponsor back in the day, and then seeing you come back, it was great because for whatever reason, and I've discussed this with Josh, I thoroughly enjoy. Maybe it's because I'm a sucker for the also ran stories in the industry, but I thoroughly enjoy seeing when young ladies can come into the sport. When you look at the other side of the coin, people like Bubba Wallace or Jesse Iwuji coming into the sport. Rajah Caruth, because I feel I kind of share the sentiment with you, and that was something I was going to ask you about. How do you see any difference at all between being in the garage area in ARCA practice just a couple weeks ago and being on the track, before you took some time off?
So there was so many different chapters of change that I saw. So talking about the cars first, the old cars, everybody's asked like, what is really an ARCA car? An ARCA car is like the little sister hand-me-down clothes. So it's all the old stuff that has transitioned out of the Cup Garage Xfinity and kind of compiled into making an ARCA car. So I remember when I ran back in 2008 and 2009, like I was running the Caterpillar Dodge, cars, and then we turned those into Chevrolets, and then I had Kyle Busch's his at that time Busch Series car that was my road course car for stuff. So like they were pretty much just kind of bits and pieces of the older things. And now to watch these cars kind of have their own identity and be built from the ground up and definitely just shaped and completely different. The biggest thing I think I noticed, and I think I can now understand why when we're watching an ARCA race, there's not a very tight draft. There's not any. We're seeing the bigger wrecks happen early in the ARCA series. We're seeing a lot of different things go on where it just looks like a total chaos, is because you can't see around these cars. The older cars kind of have like a little bit of an oval shape on the back. So when you're going into the draft as a new driver, rookie coming in, never experiencing super speedways before, you could at least see. Now you can't. So you have to completely just have the experience to know what these cars are going to feel like, what to expect when the bump draft happens, knowing where the track is. So I understand the struggle with a lot of these up-and-coming drivers, and I don't think we give them enough credit for coming from late models to maybe a short track in ARCA and going right into a super speedway like Daytona.
Yeah, not everybody can be a butterbean. You know, not everybody can. Which I think also, you know, it takes money to get into the higher tier rides. I guess you could say like well, it was Venturini, and now they're gone, and now it's Nitro Motorsports, and then you got the JGR cars. Something I just thought about while you're talking about the sight lines and everything on the car. So your cars are being built by Will Kimmel, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Will. Yep.
So does Will bring like a team with him, like spotters, for example, which is what I was thinking about? Does he have spotters that he's used in the past that will spot for you, or do you have people that you've worked with, or no, that come in, it being that it's so much more important now than last time you were around?
So you have to understand the Kimmels are, and a lot of people don't know this, but they're one of the 3 families that have been around since the 50s. So you have the Earnhardts, the Pettys, and the Kimmels. Because Kimmels never went cup racing, they kind of get overlooked for having that longevity in race cars. In the ARCA series, they're a staple in it. So you might be competing with places like Nitro and JGR and things like that, but if you look at the speed charts on Saturday, we were top 2. Like I was number 1 on the board for half the day. And honestly, we just missed the big draft. I fully believe our cars are capable, and our single car runs were one of the fastest. I mean, we were in the top 5 with single car runs. So you might be competing with those big teams that can outdo you on some of the technology and some of the factory support by the manufacturers. But when you're dealing with somebody you can never underestimate experience. And that is something that I will tell you with the Kimmels. I mean, I know if somebody is just looking at this picture, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing that front valence on that car being sucked down. I see the rear, side skirts, all of that being sucked down to the ground. That's a craft. Like, that is a true craft. And that car in front of me is the other car that they were running, and that came from Rev Racing, which was the diversity program team. And, the Kimmels built mine, the 68, from the ground up. That was an intermediate car that they shifted into a super speedway car because of just money. They can't go out and buy a super speedway car. So for a team like that to come out and be in the top 5 and overall top 12 out of 85 drivers, that's pretty impressive for a team that doesn't have the funding like these big guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you mentioned, like, I just noticed from Facebook stalking you, sorry. If I'm admitting it, it can't be a crime, right? So I noticed, like you had mentioned with Will Kimmel we have to talk about, at least for a moment, touch on one of the most legendary, if not the most legendary ARCA driver, Frank Kimmel. I mean, he is pretty much, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this. You're more you're more knowledgeable on the sport than I am, more than likely. He's kind of the Dale Senior of the ARCA world.
Yeah, so, I mean, I remember back in like 2009, my spotter was just like, hey, no matter what happens in this race, we're going to hook up to Kimmel, the 44, and do not leave its back bumper. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do exactly what you say, because at this point, I didn't have pride. I was just like, I want to learn. I want to be the best I could be. So I was like, fine. So we jumped up to the outside and we went all the way to the back. And I'm like, this was the worst thing. But then all of a sudden, every lap, we got a little faster, passing. We started, 12th and 14th with like 2 to go and ended up 5th and 6th. So I learned a lot from him. I'm still really great friends with Kimmel. Frank Kimmel. Saw him in the garage at the test, gave him a big old hug. And it's nice to know that those people are still out there. But it's a different ARCA world. You're not having Bobby Gearharts, the Frank Kimmels, the Mario Goslins. Like, there's not veteran drivers in the series anymore. And I think that takes away from how quickly these new drivers are learning, because they're all learning together. There's not a baseline out there anymore. So that was something that I saw that was a lot different too.
Now, speaking of Kimmels, I know back in the day, through looking through some pictures that I found and stuff, you also had some kind of affiliation with the Wallaces back in the day. Didn't the Wallaces help you get a couple rides back in the day?
Yeah, so me and Chrissy were like best friends. We were trouble. We had a great time. We really raised some chaos at Hickory and Tri-County and stuff like that. And it was really kind of taboo for female drivers to be friends. For whatever reason, the girls' club is like a cat fight. And I hate that for the sport. Because if you look at her and I, like, you don't see that in the garage. I mean, at the ARC, you're kind of seeing it now with the City Garage folks that they're trying to put that female team together. But yeah, Chrissy always had my back in the late model stuff, which was pretty awesome. I wish her and I could have done more moving forward, but the doors weren't open like they are now. I wish I had the knowledge of just being a businesswoman and life knowledge. 37 is a lot different than 20.
No doubt. Speaking, you mentioned about doors opening. Josh, do you hear a knock? It sounds like somebody's knocking on a door. Why don't you go check the door, see what's going on with that? Oh, hey, it's Chrissy Wallace.
Hello, how are you?
Oh my God, I want to jump through the screen right now and give you a huge hug.
How are you been?
Oh my God, I miss you so much. I'm so proud
I
of
know
you.
I miss you. How's everything going?
Good.
Mom life's different.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Raising, well, I know us as teenagers. Now I'm raising teenage daughters myself. So yeah, it's crazy.
I can't hear anything.
This is Chrissy with
I
technical.
was about to say I couldn't hear anything.
I am so proud of you. Oh my gosh. When I saw that you were going to go back and run those cars, and I was like, girl, go tear it up and go beat them like you used to. I agree. That was so cool.
Uh-oh. I think we are having technical
Yeah, I don't know if you guys
issues.
can hear me or not, but I cannot hear anything. All the audio went out.
She has
Uh-oh.
selective hearing. That's how it used to be when we were kids.
Sorry, Allie. Like I said, technical difficulties. We worked so hard to try to get the surprise going, and we were stoked because we had sorted it out. So
I love her. I'm so glad. That was the best surprise you could have given me. We were besties. So when I say like we did everything together, I pretty much lived at their house. Like, I was 18 going to North Carolina by myself. I didn't know anybody. So to have a female that understood the mindset was so cool.
how are your technical issues over there now?
I can hear you guys perfect now.
Yay!
Great.
I was like, I can see you guys' lips moving, but I couldn't hear anything.
Well, Josh, give these two young ladies the stage for a second so they can do a little catching up like they were, because I need to know. I have heard of, and I've not experienced it, but apparently there's a huge cult following for the shake and bake combo.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so me and Derek were talking. I was like, so he was asking about you, and I was like, literally, when me and Allie raced together, we used to have shake and bake on back of both
On
of our
your
cars
cars.
together. So, and I
was like,
found
yeah,
a picture of that.
It's so funny. I feel like the girl club now is not as nice as what we used to be together. Like everybody's just kind of, picking each other apart out there. And I was like, man, we had so much fun in those late models.
We did.
And shake was a staple.
It was a huge staple. I even saw Lee not too long ago, and he helped me out a little bit at Tri-County whenever I was running for Jeremy for
Yeah.
the Supercar series in November. And we were talking about y'all. He goes, you two were trouble together. He goes, no matter where we turn.
So much fun. See, they call that personality now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't get the credit we deserved back then.
No, we didn't. No, Spotlight was other places for some reason, but it's good to see you get back in a car, and
Yeah.
hopefully you'll go out there and kick some butt.
You were like my inspiration when I saw you go out there and do it. I was like, oh Lord. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to show them all these little young whippersnappers. I was like, man, I got to cover my gray hair going out there. These girls like 18, 19 years old. I feel like the mom.
That's what we were talking a little while ago, and I was like, he asked if we've talked recently. I was like, literally when she saw me get back in the car, she sent me a message congratulating me, and then I was like, it was a month or two later, I saw that she posted something. I was like, so it's awesome seeing her finally get back, and
Yeah.
I know you're ready to do it.
Yeah, it was a lot different. I'm like, man, I definitely am out of shape with these cars. Like, okay, we can do this. I'm like, oh my goodness. But I'm excited. Everybody keeps asking me, like, where's it going? And I was like, honestly, I feel like in our era, we didn't get a platform to just like openly talk about some of the internal struggles that we had. Like, it's like, ooh, if you say that or you do that, it's going to ruin your chances to like go further. And it's just, I kind of just want to, I feel like there should have been more girls after us. I feel like we did a pretty good
100%.
job of showing that we could drive. And then it just kind of happened.
I think you probably could feel the same way with the whole diversity program and certain things that when we were coming along, they didn't want to give the help to the people who really had the talent, the ones who were winning the races. And you look back at everything that you did whenever we were around each other, how many races you were winning, and it just that picture there. But hopefully from with what you're going to do and what we've got going on this year, it does open the door. And even talk to Ashley Houston. She's up and coming and trying to hopefully help her do some stuff this year with the Grand National. And it's like, man, we weren't presented with these opportunities, and hopefully the opportunities we have now, we can open the door and help other people out and give them the chance that we didn't have.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you look at those pictures, I mean, you have Geico and I have the IBW. There's no reason why we should not have been given the helping hand to say, okay, if you can do this, let me just go ahead and set you up here and at least give us an opportunity to succeed. Like, I feel like in that year, you should at least had, half the schedule and trucks like backed and funded. And like, okay, now we have Chrissy Wallace. It's a staple name. She can drive a car. She has a good track record. Like, you should have been doing that. And then I could have been filtering right behind you. And then all the girls and late models could be coming up. Like, that's how that should have gone. So
you would think, but now hopefully, your 2 or 3 races can turn into at least a half of a year, and we're gonna go run
I'm not prepared for
the
that.
Grand National. Yeah, we're gonna run Grand National with Jeremy again this year, so maybe get you come over there with us at some point.
Yeah, that would be fun. That'd be fun. I'm so glad you're on.
I know. They told me you were coming on. I was like, I'd love to join.
I was like, there's no way. He's like a knock at the door. I was thinking it was gonna be Kimmel, and then I saw you, and I was like, ah!
Well, I hate to break up the shake and bake combo, but just give me 1 second because I have a question I wanted to ask Alli and Chrissy. Since you're here, like I said, I pay attention to what's going on in the sport, and I love the stories that don't get told and the people that get passed over. Talking about the growth in the sport or lack thereof, since y'all were heavily active in it. Do you feel, because this is just my opinion and I could be wrong, you would know better than me, do you feel that back in the day, 2011-12, that Johanna Long, who was also a resident of Florida, being a snowball derby winner, had the best shot to be the big female name in racing, and just kind of got overshadowed by what Danica brought to the sport and all the media that followed her?
I'm probably the worst person to ask because that was a very touchy subject on that whole situation with her. I mean, it's not really dirt. I guess this is probably a good just kind of idea of like what really happened. So I was running with the Haunt Motorsports at the time, and Johanna was coming over there, and I was trying to just say, hey, like, I'm leaving because it's a Toyota team and I'm having some kickback with the IBW being a union. I have to be at a Chevy team. And so they were coming over there. So I was just trying to be like, hey, I know this team looks like it's fully funded and it's going, but all of the funding is my sponsor. So if I leave, just be careful. Like, don't close the door on yourself. And I feel like she and her family thought things looked better from the outside and didn't really do the research. Like, I learned the hard way on that. And I feel like they just kind of didn't put themselves in a position to protect the asset because she can drive. I mean, her and Chrissy and put them in a late model. They're probably the best in the world, And I feel like sometimes the offers and the conversations are really fun and exciting. You're like, ooh, this is it. Everything's going to happen now. And you have to take everything in racing for a grain of salt until you see the fine print. And I think that's what happened with her, was thinking that everything was going to come to life, and then it didn't. And that's the story of so many of us.
Yeah, that was just something that I've talked to people for years about Johanna, because I watched her come in. Like, I try to stay up to date with stuff, and with Catherine Legg doing what she's doing now with BJ McLeod, a lot of people don't give her the credit she deserves. And when she's wrecking in a car that is new to her and is still kind of new to a lot of other people, they're really quick to throw shade on her, and they don't realize she has done some amazing things in the open wheel world and is an immense talent. Do you see maybe with her stepping into the sport with the credentials she has, with the sponsors that she's bringing with her, ELF, it's a sponsor that is aimed at females. So do you feel like there's potential for growth with women in the sport with that, or Like, what do you think needs to happen to help women have a better opportunity in the sport?
Chrissy, I'm going to let you answer that one because my truth might be a little bit hard to swallow for the industry.
I think, I mean, it's kind of like a deal that I was involved with Germain Racing whenever, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was very appreciative and super thankful for every opportunity that I've had. But it kind of goes back to the fact of overpromised and underachieved from, I hate to say it, but owners and sponsors. You look at Alli, you look at Johanna, you look at what I've done. I think I know, like Mio and Alli both have been overpromised so many things, and people coming in to say, hey, we're going to help you with X amount of money. And for some reason that check and those words and actions don't follow up. And it's going to take for one sponsor to actually stick around for more than 6 months or a year. They're going to have to do at least a 3-year contract and give that person the opportunity, because it is a male dominant sport. And when you have all of these avenues against you, then how are you supposed to overcome that? How are you supposed to achieve that if somebody's only giving you a select amount of time? Like Alli said earlier, everybody these days are buying their ride. I don't care who you are or what you do, you're paying for your ride in one way or another. So yeah, it's definitely going to take those sponsors and a team, or, someone like Toyota. Whenever I was involved with them, I think if it wasn't for Toyota, they maybe wouldn't have gotten as many ARCA rides as what I did at that point. I feel like they backed me up and supported me a little bit more, but as soon as the team said something, they're like, all right, we're washing our hands.
Yeah. And I think too, for like, I don't know, I could probably speak for a lot of us, is I'm going to kind of go on the limb here and talk a little bit about Toni Breidinger. She has Coach, she has Raising Cane's, she has all these great sponsors. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, why is she only running 8 of the races for 2026? And I think for me is like, I see an open door for a sponsor and I'm like, okay, how can I cut corners to make it the cheap as possible for them to get involved? And now I've set the stage where they don't have to spend the money to get the publicity. And I think that for women, it's so hard, because even like you have Toni Reimer, who has Buzzballs, that's a great campaign. She's beautiful. She has the look, she has the drive, she can do all these things. But when we set the tone for smaller dollars, more publicity than a male, because we have the sex appeal as being a woman, we've now kind of put ourselves in this little pigeonhole of saying, okay, well, we don't need as much money as, somebody else down the road. Because, for instance, you can post one picture and look really great for a sponsor, and now you have done what they needed to accomplish. They've gotten the likes, the views, the following, all of that, but they didn't have to pay to play. And now that puts us in a position where we're not on the racetrack, because the team doesn't care what the sponsor's getting. They care about the check the sponsor gives. And I think that's a really fine line with women. And I actually posted this on my Facebook the other day, and I just kind of see the controversy with like fans and different drivers and stuff like that. Is I'm not running Ford on my fire suit. Not because I don't like Ford, not because I'm not appreciative that I'm running a Ford. They're not doing anything to help my program be better. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop giving ourselves away because we think the door is going to open if we do, because it hasn't. Me and Chrissy are in our late 30s. We started this 20 years ago, and there's no women filling the shoes that we try to fit into. And I think a lot of that has to do with not standing our ground on our values when it comes to sponsorship, and being able to show the teams that, hey, you don't get our money if we don't get the commitment from you for what we're bringing to the table.
That's I'm glad to hear you say some of that. And at this point, I feel like maybe Chrissy is hogging some of your time here on our channel. Chrissy, we have you scheduled for an upcoming interview, so I want to thank you for coming on, and thank you
I'm going to bombard that interview.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we definitely need to make sure Allie comes back for that one, and
look,
to do a duo channel on that one there.
If I can get it approved through producer Josh, then we can make that happen. So
If not, just come over to the house. We'll hang out and do it at the same time.
I know. I've missed you. I'm just gonna come up there and just be like, all right, I'm coming in person.
Come on. Definitely come hang out sometime. But no, thank you guys for having me on. And Allie, I wish you the best, and go kick some butt in Daytona, and let's get this deal started.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm so proud of you. Way to do it.
Thank you, Chrissy. Thanks for coming
Thank you,
on.
guys.
And y'all look forward to hearing more from Chrissy in the future. Allie, I'm glad. Hopefully we made your day with that.
Oh my God. When I tell you that we were besties, like every day I had an apartment up there, but I lived at the Wallace house. Like I did not go home, and we had the best time. And running late models with her and being by myself up there, it was so fun to have a best friend, because you don't get that in this industry. You don't get somebody you can just be completely yourself on and off the track. And we had that, and it was amazing.
So at what point did that, because I touched on it earlier and we didn't really stay on the topic too long, but at what point following your career you left? And now I don't know how true Wikipedia is, but Wikipedia said you left, you had your oldest daughter, and then tried to come back. And what has that, what is Allie's path been like since, say, 2009 to get to where you are today? So that way people can, because I don't want to just brush it aside. I want people to know the struggle.
Non-sugar-coated version.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can whatever you want.
Oh my God, here we go. Open up a can of worms.
Hey, we are a PG show, and we don't have to cater to any of the sanctioning bodies or anything like that. You know, this is just conversation. So,
I mean, I don't mind telling my truth. I really don't, because I think unless my truth is told, we're never going to resolve an issue. So in 2010, that's when I had to switch over to Venturini because of the Chevy Toyota thing. And my IBW sponsorship, they are very active with politics, obviously being a union. So I knew my funding was going to have to be either completely stopped or diverted because of the presidential election coming up. So I started to look at a lot of different things. And in 2009, I had like Nutrisystem and Proactive, and they were kind of turning the page on, like, you know, doing some stuff with me. And the team I drove for in 2009 really did me dirty with all of that, and did not properly execute, taking the fact that, hey, unless you're changing to Chevy, I can't stay here. Like that was out of my hands. But I knew that my sponsorship money was keeping that team doors open. And when I left, that team really, really did me dirty. So I almost had to start over from scratch in 2010. And by then the season started, and I didn't get to have time to ramp up. And I knew going into that Danica was coming in. And I'm someone, I always struggled with weight. I always struggled with that. Like no matter what I did, like I was always just bigger than everybody else. And I knew I didn't have the sex appeal that I was getting ready to compete with Danica. And she knocked it out of the water. I mean, she came in and did exactly what she was supposed to do and what NASCAR wanted her to do. And I couldn't compete with that from a brand standpoint. I'm a blue collar girl. Like at that point in time, if I wasn't racing, I was working. I mean, if you look at YouTube, there's a Kyle Petty interview, or not interview. I was racing at Pocono, and he was actually commentating the race. And he said, I like this girl. She's fiery. If she's working on 4x4 mud vehicles, she does this, she does that. She's just really all about racing. And that's true. Like I am a blue collar, down to the dirty, just enjoy racing race cars. And I wasn't going to go the sex appeal route. And I think it really messed with my mind at being a 19 moving into 20-year-old girl is when I was sent to New York City for Fashion Week. That was really out of my comfort zone, and every piece of clothing that they had there didn't fit me, and I just was so discouraged with myself. And like I could tell people were kind of like talking about it and like looking at me a certain way, and it was just a really big mental battle. And I called my mom and I was just like, you know, maybe I don't belong here. And I just really got torn apart. And I'm very thankful that social media didn't exist then, because I can only imagine what the trolls would say when you see a Danica, then you see an Alli. I mean, I can't go on Google right now and tear down all the pictures, but it's very obvious I look a lot different now than I did then. And I think that truly played into a lot of the factors when it came to sponsorship and stuff like that. I went and tested for Roush at the end of 2010 and did really well. David Reagan was out there. Matt Kenseth's son was out there. Matt Kenseth was there. And I performed really well at Rockingham on that test, to the point where they offered me to come over there and run their Busch car. And so I brought all my stuff over there. They were putting the seats in the car. They were doing all this stuff. And we were on the phone every day. They had Panasonic that was interested in doing some sponsorship stuff. And we had all this planned. And then I remember getting a phone call and they're like, hey, we need to talk. You know, we actually did some digging and we realized that your people aren't the IBW. And I'm like, what do you mean my people? They're like, oh, we didn't realize that that's not family, that's not actually like family funded. And I'm like, no, it's not. I was 16 years old riding around Daytona Beach on my bicycle, getting sponsorship and worked my butt off to sell that deal at 17 years old. Like, that's me. I did that. That's not family. And then they were just like, yeah, we don't know if your people are a good fit. And I'm like, stop saying my people. Like, who are you talking about? Long story short, because I didn't have family backing, they pulled the plug on that and said, hey, we're sorry. We just misunderstood the situation. You know, we're not going to be able to move forward. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, all my stuff is here at your shop. Like, I'm planning to go bush racing. Like, what do you mean? And that's really where the cookie crumbled at that point in time. And I found myself deep in depression and just like, you know, what's going on, and gained even more weight, which is when you look at 2011, the truck pictures when I did fan funding, you're like, God, what happened to her from there to there? And then I went to go run the truck race in Daytona. It was fan funded, and they just paved the track, and we did not have an engine tuner. So when we went out in practice, we were drafting with Ron Hornaday and Kyle Busch, and we were good, but we were doing 205 on the backstretch in a truck. Like, we were going so fast, it got quiet. NASCAR immediately red flag come in. Like, no one's hitting the track. We're changing the restrictor plates. I had no engine tuner. I missed the race. The first time since I was 8 years old, I did not qualify for a race. At that exact moment in time, I knew that I was done. I did not look the part. I did not feel the part. And now I couldn't qualify for the race. And I just broke down, like, literally in the trailer. And my dad's like, get up and go out there and thank everybody that has helped you get to this point. And I was like, I physically cannot get up. Like if I die right now, it's from a broken heart. And I just shut everything off. Like, if you look at my social media, I barely have any followers on anything. I erase myself from this world, like, shut it down, like, completely shut it down. And that's when I met, at that time, my husband that I had my 2 daughters with, and that fizzled out. And I honestly think he was a rebound for racing. I know it's funny to say, but we didn't click. And I am a sole custody single mom of my 2 daughters. And for the last, 10 years after that, well, in 2016, I get a phone call from somebody that I worked with before. They're like, hey, Opaika Racing, South African team owner, is looking for a female. You're the only one still qualified to go run an Xfinity race at Richmond. And I knew what I looked like then. I was still overweight and still just trying to, like, deep in depression, like, on all kinds of just, like, trying to figure out life. And I went and ran that race. I never should have done that. I looked awful. That car was, like, a death trap. I knew that going into it, and I couldn't let my mind just not go run that race. So I ran that race, and it made it worse. It made everything worse. I felt like crap. I looked like crap, publicly humiliated. And I was just like, oh my God, shut life off again. And then I'm just slowly watching, I'm always in the background watching. And like, every time it comes to speed weeks, I keep watching, and I'm watching, and nothing happens. I'm like, and it was, I think Busch Light had like 8 girls for the Daytona 500 commercials, like Natalie Decker. I want to say it was Tony, and I forget who was there. I was like, yes, this is happening. We're moving forward with females. And then it didn't happen. And I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go back out there and set the stage. And I'm in a very good spot financially, very good spot mentally. in a very good spot from just being a closer in sales. I work in sales every day in corporate America. So I was like, all right, if I can put this deal together in 60 days, I'll do it. And it happened. But I look different, I feel different, and I'm very much more educated on my worth and the sport itself. And I think it all happens for a reason.
Yeah, it's part of. Hey, but I love my producer Josh gives me dirty looks. You can't see I can see his camera behind the scenes, and he's giving me dirty looks like, "Come on, sir, you told me we are going to have a certain time frame." Well, sometimes you just gotta let people cook, man. You know. So
hey, there you go. You got it all out. You got all the dirty that's never been told.
Well, no, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I really genuinely do, because that's part of the thing. There's a lot of people that they're either ashamed to tell their stories, or they're afraid that if they tell their stories that it's going to have a negative outlook on their career. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's because people, they lack faith and they don't trust his plan. And we touched briefly before the interview on something that's on your car now, and how do you feel God has, well, everybody's got their own walk, and how do you feel like, do you see now heading to the track, getting back to Daytona, do you see how he's affected your life with your beautiful children and now this opportunity that's been afforded you? Like, can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I have Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 through 15. That will be on the car. Clearly not the whole verse, but it's a time for everything. And I broke down in tears crying when I got an anonymous phone call of somebody that wanted to pay the piece that got backed out that I needed to kind of conclude this race. And he's like, I don't need my name on the car. I don't need my company. I just want this on the back. And he's like, I believe that this is accurate for you. And it really just hit home. I know we talked about racing, but personally, I can tell you right now, I did not set out to be, and I say, when you hear the word single mom, you're like, oh, they went through a divorce, time sharing, and all this stuff, child support. Personally, I'm a sole custody single mother of 3. And that breaks a person sometimes, when not necessarily the fact of like having to raise kids, but you're talking financially having to support 3 kids, working full time, trying to juggle sports, trying to go through conversations of, raising daughters that don't have a father, and like trying to prep myself to explain like to my son when he gets bigger, like, hey, there's not a dad in the picture. Like, there's all these things that I'm going to have to go through in life. And then, going through battling weight, battling, all of those things, battling depression. You don't get a time to stop and reflect. I went straight from losing racing to being a mom, to being a single mom. And it's just a lot you go through as an individual. And I just kept telling myself, like, I don't think God would give me anything that I couldn't build through. And now that I have come out the other side and I'm just physically in the best shape of my life, mentally in the best spot I've ever been in, and my kids are happy. I have a fantastic career. I run a nonprofit, Raising Hearts, Building Futures. I am going back racing to share my message and help other people. I truly believe my purpose in life. Yes, can I drive a race car? But I think race cars are my tool to tell my story, to inspire people, whether it be in sports, individuals, whatever it may be, because I have survived it and a lot of people don't. And I lost 2 friends in the sport, 2 female, beautiful race car drivers that couldn't handle the rejection of the sport, and they lost their life to mental health. And I'm thankful that wasn't me, because it very well could have been.
You touched about RHBFF for a second. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Raising Hearts, Building Futures. Every Thursday is kind of like my day, and I just go to our local restaurant here, and I just sit there, and I just kind of like let my brain do all of its thinking. And I contacted Terry Brary, who I work with in 2008 with Children's Sleep Apnea Disorders Foundation. And I was just like, hey, like, I know that you didn't really do anything with that foundation. I was like, do you still have the 501c3? And she's like, yeah. I was like, why don't we redo that? Let's rebrand it. I was like, because I personally, out of my own pocket, I probably spent about 15 grand overall, just out of my own pocket over the last few years of just helping moms that need couches, TVs, you know, anybody that's like, hey, do you have baby clothes? Do you have this? Do you have that? And just like giving back to the community and like being a resource because I know what it's like to not have it. And I was just like, it'd be so nice to have a foundation that can cover things to help people who really just need help. And, you know, foundations are tricky. A lot of people have foundations and they don't really do what they're supposed to do with it. And I know sometimes they get a bad rap. Ours is directly impacted. As soon as we have an event, the money goes in, the money goes out. And that's really what I wanted to stand behind, to where people can feel and see direct impact. If you say, all right, I need this, I want to say, okay, we're doing that now. It's not like, oh, we're going to be doing this, you know, later in the year. It's, you know, direct impact now, because people sometimes can't wait. You know, when kids are hungry, they need to eat. When the light bill goes, you know, off, you need electricity. So that's really what we're doing with that. And I'm so proud of it. And it's been such an amazing ride to really be at the ground level of building something like that.
I'm glad to see that you're doing things for other people, help other people out like that. Because like you said, sometimes, you know, and you experience it yourself, you know, sometimes, you know, life hands you situations and you don't know how to handle it. You're not mentally prepared enough. Some people don't know that the ultimate answer to all of life's problems is prayer. Sometimes it seems so simple that people just kind of brush it aside and they're like, oh yeah, well, no, you know, the Lord has, and I think your story is a perfect example. Our Lord has a plan for everybody. And if you ask for help, he will help you and he will solve your problems, but it's going to be in a manner which it best suits your needs. So like now, you know, you've got 2 daughters, you've got a young son. So now you can kind of, I feel like from the outside looking in, you're in a position to help more people by doing what you're doing. And you're actually doing something that, you know, you're getting ready to take a race car on the high banks of Daytona with your daughters in the garage area. I mean, that's got to be a phenomenal feeling.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a really special moment. I always tell everybody, like, you know, the last time, you don't know it's your last time, right? So like I was so worried about how to continue to make it happen that I didn't get to appreciate what was going on. And my daughters weren't there. They've seen me race. They watched me race Richmond, which again, that whole experience was just not it. They've watched me race late models, but all of this stuff was when they were little. Like they have no recollection of their mom as the race car driver. And there's my little boy. That's my racer right there. So a lot of people don't know that I coached 13 seasons of volleyball and softball, and my daughters play club volleyball, and I have a competitive cheerleader. So our schedule is jam-packed, and they don't really associate racing as their mom. So for them to go to the test was a really big eye-opener for them. They're like, oh, now I can smell it. Now I can see it. Now I can actually watch what she's been talking about, what my friends, you know, I said, when's the first time you realized that it was kind of cool? She's like, when I was in computer class and I Googled your name and I popped up. I was like, okay.
Well, that's
but yeah,
awesome.
It's huge. And me and my little boy, you know, him and I almost didn't make it. They didn't want me to follow through with that pregnancy. And I fought for my life and his life from 17 weeks till he was born at 30. You know, I was being kept alive by the hospital, and many a times they had me sign my life over on paper to my mom to make the decision if I live or die. And I was just really put my, you know, life in the hands of the Lord and said, okay, whatever is meant to be will happen. And he came out a fighter, and we've been fighting ever since. And life is just, there's a calmness that has taken place. And everybody's like, how is that possible when you have a baby and there's no other person there to help you with it? And I'm like, I can't explain it, but there's just a life. Okay, everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. And to have my kids and my parents at the racetrack and everybody there is a full circle moment of just really appreciating the journey that we've been on together.
That's awesome. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad to see you are where you are now compared to where you were. It's so great to know your story now and to see you with your family, knowing that your son is probably terrorizing your mother in the house as we speak.
We built a dog pen yesterday. It's so funny. I was just like, because, you know, I'm just a normal mom. You know, I've raced 3 kids on the daily, and it's just like, okay, so, and we live in Daytona, so we're like, okay, are the girls going to school during race week? Like, what does that look like? I guess we're dropping them off, picking them up, so they're going to be down the road like 6 miles going to school while I'm in the media center doing all this stuff. So life is normal for them. And then I'm like, I got to build this dog pen because my son is 100% my karma. Everybody's like, oh, you're raising girls. I'm like, this boy. So he has like 4 different types of ride-on race cars. He's got the Strider bike, anything and everything that has a wheel, steering wheel, he is game for. So the reason he was sitting in my lap for those pictures at the shop isn't because I wanted him in there. It's because he was screaming at the top of his lungs unless he was in there. So yes, that one's going to be my child that follows in his mother's footsteps. I can already tell. So it's going to be fun to see how he reacts to seeing all the cars, and he'll probably want to be in the car with me.
Well, in addition to your beautiful family, we are sure that you have some shout outs you want to go get, or you want to get out there. So this is the segment of the show that producer Josh and I call the White Flag. This White Flag segment is the last lap of the show. This is your opportunity to shout out some sponsors and some upcoming events. The White Flag is yours. Please take your last lap.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, this whole thing got started. The first money coming in the door was through my fans. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that donated through the foundation to at least get a commitment to the Kimmels that we were going to go. So I want to give a huge shout out to them. And then I want to give shout out to people who have been there since day one. My brother and my mother, their company, Executive Building Services, anytime I was short, they're always there to help me cover the rest of it. And that's a huge thing. Nate Garrow with Smart Sedge Industries. He's been a friend of mine since I was 16, has always been around. And he came right up and said, hey, listen, whatever we got to do to help you, let's do it. I'm super excited. We're actually going to have a tiny home in the infield, just a tailgate party. So fans, if you are going to be at the track for the Daytona 500 race week, we will be down there in lot 918 having a good old time. And then Scotty Boy Landscaping, everybody's like, that's kind of strange. Listen, when I tell you that my community rallied behind me, they rallied behind me. He's really been a huge help and a big influence, especially with the living legends of auto racing and just trying to help me do the educational piece in the school. So really big shout out to him. Living Legends of Auto Racing, they came on. What we're doing with them through the foundation is we are going to be implementing math, science, technology, similar to STEM. We're really getting into the history classes to ensure that our community here in Daytona always remembers where motorsports came from. So we're super excited to get involved in the schools here with them. And then Waldo's Billiards and Sports Pub. I'm so excited about this because this is so different. We're actually doing speed dating. I was like, how do you have a single mom female race car driver here in Daytona and not do speed dating and play on the word? So we have a huge event. We have about 60 people signed up for that. I'm so excited. February 6th. And then I'm also very appreciative and very sentimentally bringing back the nostalgia of partnering with the IBW. So IBW Local 756, they are coming on board. That's where we're doing our Veteran and Tradesman Appreciation event. We are moving it to March 14th, and I'm really excited about that because they are really focusing on getting women involved in the trades, and I could not be more proud to lead the way on that. And then obviously we do have Barretto Karts. I'm super excited for that. They're actually letting us have golf carts for the races so that we can just be 100% involved with the fans. And then lastly, my little Bighorn Grills. Okay, here we go. These guys. Everybody's like, what is Bighorn Outdoors? They are pizza ovens and grills. I'm so excited. They have come on in a big way. And I'm more excited about how they're approaching race week. They've never been involved in motorsports. They are sending out influencers because I do not have a big following. That's something that I just don't do. But they are bringing out genres from barbecue influencers to moms to all kinds of things. We're going to have a whole bunch of people out there filming content. I think that's such a cool way to kind of cross market the whole thing. And then we are going to be cooking with these girls out there. So again, if you're down through the race week on Thursday, we're going to have a pit road after dark after the duels. And we're just going to be having a big cookout with everybody. Come hang out and then see everything. But I'm pretty proud of what we've done in 60 days. That's a lot to do, and it's been crazy. And like I said before, I told you, I feel like I'm the definition of insanity. But it's okay. We're making it happen. So, again, just thank you to everybody and their support, everybody that started to follow my story. I know it's kind of a weird transition into it, like, who is this person? What is she doing? But we are offering a lot to just really bring the true American story back into a sport that so desperately needs to have a reshift on people like us.
Well, if anything, you are the reason for what we do. We had Corey LaJoy on not too long ago, and he kind of made me feel good about what we're doing. He said that producer Josh and I have taken up a noble cause by getting stories like yours out there, and we are going to get this out to the people before the race, so that way they can follow the 68 car on track. And man, it sounds like you've got a lot going on that weekend. I hope that you've got a lot of wranglers to help you with the girls and with little hot rod you got over there. And
right, I know. When I'm telling you, you know what? The first little tagline is "It takes a village." My village is strong, so we have a lot of people that are going to help us out. And the big thing I wanted to do for Daytona was not make it look so corporate, so sponsorship driven. I wanted to be just a big tailgate, everybody having fun, because at the end of the day, you're not going to fill the fans in the grandstands if they don't enjoy the experience. And we want to give them an experience.
That is awesome. Well, Alli, thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving us some of your time. As I always say, time is one of the assets. It's the most valuable asset we have, because you never know how much you have. So any time that you can give to somebody else, is special. So thank you so very much. Before we head out, I want to remind people, make sure y'all tune in to the General Tire 200 Saturday, February 14th at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central. That's my time. Watch Alli go out there and show some of these other people how to drive. Make sure, if you enjoy our content, that you like and subscribe. Share a comment with us. Let us know what we can do better, what we can do less of. And if you're listening in the audio realm, make sure you rate and review us. I think that's going to be it for this episode. This is the longest one we've done, but it has been one of, if not the most fun. I have to say that, because if I say it's the most fun, I might upset some of our previous guests. So, in the meantime...
Thank you so much.
In the meantime, people, wheels down, eyes on the crown, and Corey LaJoy, please take us home.
Let me read Hebrews 12:1 real quick. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw up everything that hinders and the sin so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let's freaking go.